Hi, I'm very excited about this video. I've been recording a whole bunch. You could watch the previous ones, but you don't have to, because if you're ready to write a Discord bot in Node.js, you've got Node set up on your computer, you've got a code editor, you're just waiting to type what you need to type in to make your Discord bot work, then you are in exactly the right place. If you don't have Node set up, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a few videos where I went through some workflow stuff before this that you could go back and watch. But let's just get started. I'm gonna make a list here of what I want to accomplish in this video. The first thing I want to do is create a Node project with the Discord.js dependency. That is the package that I'm going to use to work with the Discord API. I need to create a Discord application through the developer portal, and I need to make it into a bot. I'm going to need to set all of its permissions and add it to the server, the Discord server where I want to interact with it. I'm going to need to save the secret token that goes along with the bot that allows me to work with it from my code. And then I want to write the code for loading the Discord.js package, for authenticating with the token, and then setting up a / command. So I'll look at what a / command is, but it's the basic primary function of a bot. Although my plan is, after this video is done, do all sorts of other fun and wacky and weird things that you can do with Discord bots outside of just plain / commands. But that is a great place, I hope, to get started. I should also mention that I made some Discord bot tutorials like a while back, and they're completely out of date. And I expect that the one I'm making right now will probably go out of date relatively soon. So I'm going to try to minimize the post-production and editing here and just, go back to my roots of the raw, unedited coding train mess that is trying to make a project and teach it in a video and stutter and weird and trip over things and all that stuff. All right, but there will be some edits. I'm going on for too long right now, so let's just edit right here. So good news, you actually don't have to watch this video. There is a guide that I have put together with a lot of help from several wonderful, generous members of the Coding Train community, which outlines all of the steps. And you might just be able to follow it without watching me go through it. But if you would appreciate watching me go through it, that's what I'm going to do. I should also mention that my guide is based almost entirely on the Discord.js guide itself. So it's a little bit confusing. There are 3 things at play here. The Discord API is the Discord Application Programming Interface, which is a general purpose thing made by the company Discord itself to allow people to write applications that work with the Discord service itself. There is also something called Discord.js, which is a Node package that allows you to work with the Discord API from Node in JavaScript. It is made by other people, not officially from the Discord company itself. And third, there's actually a whole Discord.js guide, which I'm linking here in the video, where you can read lots of information and a nice walkthrough about all the wonderful things and possible things you could do with Discord.js itself. What I'm doing is building on top of the work of the wonderful people who made the Discord.js guide to try to make a smaller version of a little guide to help you get started working with Discord.js to make something that works with the Discord API. I'm going to start from a clean slate. I'm in Terminal, in the desktop, and I'm going to make a directory. So I'm now in a directory called Discord bot Choo Choo. I want to turn it into a Node project. I'm going to say npm init, and I'm just going to say -y so that it sort of fills all the package.json stuff out by default. Great. I know that the Node package primarily that I want to use is Discord.js. So let's install that. And I think I'm ready to go, but maybe I should open up this project in Visual Studio Code. I know I'm going to be using ES modules, import statements, so I better add that to package.json. Then I need a JavaScript file where I'm going to put my code for the bot. I'll call it bot.js. Let's rename index.js and package.json to bot.js. OK, so I've set up the project by saying npm init, and I installed discord.js. I forgot to install the .env package. Let's add that. I did add type module to package.json. Great. So this first step was just to get the Node project set up but really it's not worth trying to start writing the code until I've actually made the Discord application itself, and I need to do that through the Discord developer portal. Now you will need a Discord account. I'm not going to show you how to sign up for the Discord service generally in this video, but there'll be links in the description for just making a general Discord account. But once you've done that, as long as you go to the developer portal and you are logged in, which I am, you will see a page that looks like this. Now, most likely you won't see all these like example bots and applications just right there. I've been making them and over the years in different workshops and scenarios. So this will be blank. And what you want to do is create a new application. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to name the application coding train Choo Choo example. I'm going to agree to the Discord developer terms of service. And why not add a nice profile picture here? There we go. I could write more about the description, etc. But one thing that I do want to make note of is this application ID. It's also sometimes called client ID. We'll need it later when we start writing the code. To be continued. Now, the application is just the start. The next thing I want to do is click on bot. The other thing I'm really going to need, but I'll come back and get it later, is this token. Token is the most secret part that you need to hold on to as carefully as possible. It's essentially your password for using this bot anywhere. The next step is to add a bot to a server with the proper permissions. Now, a really important thing for me to say here is you can't just willy-nilly add bots to servers. So what server are you going to add it to? I'm going to use the Coding Train official Discord server because I am the owner of that server and I have permission to add bots to it. But you will most likely need to create your own server unless you already happen to be part of a Discord server where you have permission to add bots. This is the official Coding Train server. It's what it looks like in the Discord application. At the bottom left, if you scroll all the way down, there is a plus where you can add a server. You could obviously join an existing server or create your own. So most likely, if you want to follow this tutorial, you're going to need to create your own so you have permission to add bots to it. Back to the instructions. In the developer portal, you want to go under OAuth 2 and under URL generator. Here is where you are going to select the scopes and permissions you want your bot to have. There might be many more things that other future examples and things that I'm going to demonstrate might require, but right now, the only things I'm going to demonstrate to you are applications.commands. That's the /command. I'll show you how that works in a bit in this video, and then bot. Once I've done that, there's a lot of other permissions here. Again, we could get into the very granular level of what your bot can and cannot do, but all I actually need is to copy this URL that's been generated at the bottom. Then I can paste that URL into the address bar, hit enter, and it's going to come up with this menu. An external application coding train Choo Choo example wants to access your Discord account. I'm good with that. And what it's going to be allowed to do is add a bot to the server and create commands. If I had selected some other things, those might be listed here. It really should be allowed to bake a cake. That would be quite nice. And I could pick what server I want to add it to. It's by default somehow just already pre-selected Coding Train Choo Choo, so that's great. But other servers I could select here. I'm going to hit authorize. This is always the part that I have the most confusion with because I am a human, but I'm making a bot. I guess it wants to know that a human is making a bot and not a bot is making a bot. Then I need to two-factor authenticate, which I would highly recommend you set up for your account. I'm still human as far as I know. Authorize. And now it's been added to the server. Let me go back to my server and see if I can find it. I made a private channel called Bot Example just for the purpose of recording this video. Let me try adding it to this channel. Coding Train Choo Choo example bot. I'm going to select that. I'm going to hit done. Again, I'm pretty sure if you set up a general new server, you're not going to have to worry about adding the bot to a private channel. That's just something I'm doing here for the purpose of testing inside of this little sandbox. Let me mention the bot just so we can see and make sure it's there. Okay, it didn't talk back to me. That's something that we can have it do once we learn how to do the code. But I can also click on it, and I can now see this is definitely the example. That's a member since today. It's in waiting to board, which is a role that I have before people sign the code of conduct. So I'm going to take that out. I'm also going to give it this bot role, which is special for the channel. So anything that you can do with a regular user, you can do with a bot user of your Discord server. The important thing here is it is offline. I need to get it online. The other thing I want to make sure that I do is enable developer mode in Discord. This is going to be really helpful for various things that I'm going to need to look at in the Discord application itself in conjunction with coding the bot. If I go to Settings, Advanced, Developer Mode. I already have this checked, but this you'll want to make sure is checked. Now, before I write the code, I need to create a special file called .env. I've made videos before about the .env package and hiding API keys in a .env file. I'm doing the same thing here with the Discord bot. The dot means it's a hidden file. There are ways that I'm going to want to ignore that file, not include that file if I publish and upload my bot to different places. But for now, all it means is as part of my Node project, let me make a separate file called .env, and I'm going to paste this into it. Now, what goes in the file is not 1, 2, 3, 4. I now need to get the client ID from the application, the server ID from the server, and the token, the secret token. The client ID is the same as the application ID. I could copy it here. It's also under OAuth 2, right here under client ID. So let's copy that one, paste that here. The server ID is the specific server of the bot. Now, bots can live in multiple servers, but right now I want my code and my bot to only work in this one particular server. If you want to make a bot that you're publishing publicly that anybody could add to their server, there are other kinds of restrictions and things you need to worry about. But for us right now, this is essentially just a developer experiment, so I don't have to do much beyond just get that server ID. I can right-click the name of the server and go to Copy Server ID. That's there because I have developer mode on. Paste that here, and then it's time for the token. Back to the developer portal, under Bot, and I have to reset the token. If I don't have the token, there's no way to get it without resetting it to a new one. It's telling me my bot is going to stop working, which it doesn't work yet anyway, so that's fine. But if I had already made it and I want to reset the token, I've got to make sure to update it. I've got a two-factor again. And then I want to copy this token and put it in. Now you might be saying to yourself, you fool! Your token is visible in your YouTube video. And yeah, that's a problem. But don't worry, by the time you're watching this, I'm going to have reset it. But if you were doing a tutorial live, you wouldn't want that token to be visible. Guess what? It is time to start writing the code. So the first thing that I need to do is import the things that I need from the various Node packages. So let me copy paste these two lines of code and put them into bot.js. Now, if this syntax is unfamiliar to you, I'll refer you back to the previous video where I covered how to make a Node project and how imports work. But what you can take away from this right now is that I'm going to need from the discord.js package, the client, the events, and the gateway intent bits. So that's something I want to talk about and investigate further. But right now, I know I just need those things. And I need this function called config from .env. So the very first thing I want to do is execute the config function. What that means is it will now place everything that's in this file under client ID, server ID, and token into a variable called process.env. To confirm that, I'm going to say console.log process.env. Let's now run this code. I realized just now that in some of my earlier videos, I forgot to show that VS Code actually has a terminal built into it. So we could actually do all this from there. I could go to View, Terminal, and I could start writing my terminal commands in here. I'm just kind of out of the habit of doing that. I'm going to work separately in my separate terminal application. But you should certainly feel free to do that instead. Oh my goodness, I forgot. So one of the wonderful things about process.env, this idea of environment variables, is there are a ton of them on my computer. There are all sorts of things. And in fact, if I were on a web server, on a different machine, there'd be different environment variables. But you can see here that the client ID, the server ID, and the token are here on the bottom. So just to be a little bit more explicit about it, if I were to say .server ID, I can now see that server ID is accessible in the code, but not saved in the code. I'm doing all of this because I don't want to have this. This is a bad idea. The next step is to authenticate and actually log into Discord from the bot itself. I'm creating a new client object. That client class is something I imported from the discord.js package, and it needs as an argument, I forgot. I have to look it up in my guide. So in future things that I might want to try with a Discord bot, maybe I need other properties here, but the core base property that I need is called intents, and I need an array that keeps track of all of my intentions, essentially. Now, why is it called gateway intent bits? Kind of a funny name for this variable that holds all of these other constants like guilds. Why is it called guilds? Well, Discord was originally created as a chat platform for gaming, so you can see where the guild terminology stems from. And in the developer docs, I can see this list of intents, all the intents and gateway events associated with them. So this is something you'll have to pay more attention to as you think about what other things you want your bot to do. But at present, I essentially don't want it to do anything. It's just going to respond to one single basic slash command. So I just want to make sure it essentially has the permission, the generic guild's intent. Intent is a word for intention. What are this bot's intentions? We've got to list them in advance to make sure it's allowed to do those things. And the reason why it's called bits is actually these variables are holding numbers, and based on the binary values of these numbers, different bits being on or off, it turns off, on and off different kinds of intents. So that's a whole other discussion. I'll include some more links to information about how that works in this video's description. So next, I want to handle different kind of events associated with the Discord bot. One of them would be just being ready, logged in. So I can call the once function for any event that happens just one time. And I can access from the events property that I imported the client ready event, and then I can give it a callback function. I could write that in as an anonymous function here, but just to be super friendly, let's call it ready Discord, and let's define the function. And I'm just going to say console log the train emoji. And I could put in here, I think client.user.tag maybe is a way of getting, just to make sure I'm getting the actual correct bot name. But you can see that this client object that I've created has different properties on it, like its user tag. All right, let's try running this. Ooh, that didn't seem to work. Oh, I realized I forgot. So this is the event for when it's logged in, but I actually have to tell it to log in. So I also want to say client.login, and what do I need to log in? I need its token. The token is hidden away in process.env because of how I'm using the .env package. Okay, now let's try running this. Great, it's logged in. Let's go back and look at the Discord server. Look, the green light is on because this bot is online and it's logged into the server. As soon as I hit Control-C, I've quit the Discord bot code. Now it should log out. I have a feeling if I go back and look, it's still going to be green. It sort of takes a minute for it to realize it's not logged in my experience. But at some point when we check back, it should say offline. All right, so on the one hand, I could stop here because this is the basic setup, but the bot can't actually do anything right now besides log in. One of the ways to interact with bots is through something known as a slash command. So right now we're on Discord.js 14. I forget what the version of the Discord API is, but a long time ago, like 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, it used to be that if you wanted to interact with a bot, there was kind of a convention where you would say something like !Choo Choo, and maybe you would write into your bot code, oh, only look for messages that start with an exclamation point, because you wouldn't want a bot to be interacting with every single message ever posted in the server. Although that could be fun, and maybe we'll come up with some reasons why we might want to do that for experimental, playful purposes. But since that convention, Discord, the API, adopted something called a slash command. So if I type slash, I'm going to start to see all of these possible commands that are available for all the different bots that are in the Coding Train server. So for me to have my bot interact with a slash command, there are probably a variety of ways you can do this. I'm following the discord.js guide. I'm going to create a separate JavaScript file for that command. So I'm actually going to create a separate folder. I'm going to call that folder commands. Then I'm going to create a file in that folder. I'm going to call it, because my hello world command will just be choo choo. So I'm going to call the file choo-choo.js. In that file, I need to import other things from the Discord.js package, things that I didn't import as part of this sort of main code, this main bot.js file. I don't have them memorized, so I'm going to go to my guide. And actually, all it is the / command builder. So this is something you'll see in a lot of the Discord.js API, how it works. If I want to have a message attachment, I need a message attachment builder. If I want like a button, I need a button builder. So this idea of builders is very common. Here, I want to build a / command. The way that I do that is by creating a variable. I'm going to call that variable data for a very specific reason I'll get to in a bit. And then I'm going to put in that variable a new / command builder. Then I can start to set its properties. I can say like data set name. It's going to be called Choo Choo. Data.set description. It's going to be called, the description will be like, this is a demo Choo Choo. You know, you can think of a better description when you do it. And even though I did this as 3 separate lines of code, when you look at my example, it's kind of a nice thing you can do is just chain these. So rather than have a separate line of code, I can just say, make the new / builder dot set name. And then from there, I can even chain dot set description. And then when I save, my auto format will kind of put line breaks there because that line of code is too long. Now, the next thing I need to do is write a function that will handle any interaction with this command. I'm going to call that function execute. And it's going to receive as its argument an interaction object. Now, you don't have to call it execute, but again, the naming is specific here because I'm going to do something else that is going to look for something called data and something called execute. I'll get to that later. The other thing you might notice here is the keyword async. So I'm using promises, the concept of promises in this code with the keywords async and await. If that's completely unfamiliar to you, I will link to a whole set of videos where I go through that. The main thing you need to realize is that certain things you do with the Discord API are asynchronous events. It takes some time for them to complete. And if I want to write my code in a way where I'm sequencing them properly, I'm going to need to use the async keyword to describe the function that has asynchronous events as part of it, and the await keyword to make sure I'm waiting for the asynchronous events to complete. And what is the asynchronous event I want to happen? I want to reply to the interaction. So again, this bot barely does anything. You can actually have commands that take different arguments, that play a game with you, that reach out to other APIs, that post images, but I just want a hello world style bot that sets up a command, and when you execute the command, it just posts a reply to the server itself. Now, something important here that I've left out of the code. This separate file is one that I'm going to need to reference and work with from this main bot.js file. How could I possibly do that? Well, I'm doing that already, actually. I'm referencing objects and functions from Discord.js and from .env. I want my choo-choo.js file to be something that I can actually import into this file. How do I make things in other files that I can import into other files? Guess what? I just need one more keyword, the keyword export. So now you're learning a little bit about making your own modules that can be imported into other JavaScript files in a Node.js project. And in fact, I can add that right now. I'm going to say import star, because I just want to get everything as Choo Choo from choo-choo.js. So I think this will work. Oh no, it's in commands. Commands/choo-choo.js. I might need a / here just to say that it's in the root directory of this project, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll try it both ways, but I think best practice would put that / there. So there's another step, and if I go back to here, we can see like I'm at the end of this create a command step, and the next step is deploy the commands. So this is a little bit weird. This is not actually code that's part of the bot itself. This is a one-time operation that essentially says to the Discord server, hey, this bot is going to have these commands associated with it. So I only need to do this once. Now, if I were to change the name of a command or add new commands, then I would have to do this again, but one-time only thing. I'm not going to go through the code for what's in deploy commands. I actually just pulled it entirely from this guide here under registering slash commands. I might have made a few little adjustments to it in case I did something differently in my code, but essentially you could just copy paste it. By the time you watch it, this will be a link. Here's the code. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to create a file called deploy commands.js. I'm going to paste this in here. And if I've done everything correctly, if I've set up my client ID, my server ID, my token, this should just work. You're also going to notice here, if data in command and execute in command. So it's looking for those exports called data and execute. So that's why I needed those function names, because the deploy commands code is specifically looking for those. All right, let me try running that. Great. Started refreshing one application commands, successfully reloaded one application commands. So that means it worked. If you get an error there, it might be like a token or client ID is wrong. You might have not named it data or execute properly. Your file might be in the wrong directory, like maybe it's not in a file in a folder called commands. So look for those things, but if you followed my instructions, this should hopefully just work. Now, if I log my bot in by calling bot.js and go back to Discord and type in slash, that command is listed there. So let's just try running it. I'm going to hit enter. It didn't respond. So I did register the command. I did write the code for what I want to happen when the command is executed, but I need to handle it from here in the main bot code. Last step. There's another event. So client.once is for events that can only happen once. Client.on is for events that could happen multiple times, like somebody could issue the command multiple times. So the event I need to handle is interaction create. Then I need a function to handle that. And now it's time for me to write that function. The argument to that function is an interaction object. I want to first make sure it actually was a command. If that interaction wasn't a command, I want to just get out of here. Other kinds of interactions I will get into later, but right now I'm only handling interactions that are commands. Then I just need to check what was the command name. Command name equals Choo Choo. And I should probably use a more strict equality there. So if the command's name was Choo Choo, then I want to run the execute function that's part of the Choo Choo.js file that I've imported. And I want to execute that interaction. So there's not a lot here. This is essentially saying I want to handle any interactions and then farm those off to my commands files. So I could have multiple command files. I could load multiple ones. I could check to see which command it is and execute the proper execute function. I will say, if you have more than just one or two or three, this if statement isn't the best way of doing it, but this is perfect, I think, for a quick hello world, let's just get it working demo. I forgot something important that I just realized. The execute function, I almost shouldn't have realized this because I should let myself get the error, but the execute function is asynchronous. I need to await it to finish. And I can't say await unless I've labeled the handle interaction function async. So this ready Discord event doesn't need to be asynchronous because all it's doing is console logging. That's not an asynchronous event, it's just console logging. But handling the interaction is asynchronous. Okay, I think I'm ready to go. By the way, there are different tools which will automate the rerunning your Node program over and over again anytime you change the code, something called NodeMon or Node Monitor or something you could use, but I'll maybe demonstrate that in another video. Let's just run it manually. Okay, it's running. I go to Discord. The bot is online. I do my slash command, run this command. It worked. So that's actually it. That's all the pieces for a hello world Discord bot, essentially. That doesn't do very much, but if you can get this set up and running, if you can follow these instructions, if you can piece all the parts together, then you are on your way. Now, there's a whole bunch of things I haven't covered. Number one, probably the most important thing is it's much more interesting to have a command that can take an argument. For example, I think I have a GIF command. Let's try running this one. And I can give it a query, which is like an argument. And I can get a kitten GIF. So there's lots of other kinds of ways that you can interact with commands that are much more sophisticated. What kinds of things would you like to make? It's going to be a little while before I make the next video in this series, so you can let me know in the comments. I can try to design some examples and demonstrations. You can also have bots do all sorts of things, respond to emoji reactions, play games with you, do things outside of the slash commands. I will explore that in future videos as well. I should also mention that I'm doing something kind of strange here. You can just stop watching now, but if you want to give me a minute, I'm going to just talk about the pieces of where they are and how they're working on the whiteboard, if you want to kind of think about how you might want to have your bot running in the future. So the thing that's strange about what I've done is on my laptop, I am both running the Discord client, like the actual Discord application. That's the thing that I, as a human, type into and read people's messages and react to them. I'm also running this like Node.js bot, essentially. And you would think like, oh, it's a bot, like it should just communicate with the Discord application. But the whole point of this is that your bot isn't running on your laptop. Your bot, you probably want to deploy somewhere else to a server that's always on. And ultimately, the Discord API, the Discord web service is, hosted on a server somewhere in a closet or an underground bunker, but sure, we could call it the cloud. And essentially what happens is your bot is logging in and authenticating here and sending messages here, and your client is also connected to and receiving messages and sending them. This way, other people who happen to be running Discord are also seeing the messages that your bot is doing, and also able to send commands that will then interface with the bot and then send them back and forth. So that's important to realize that this is a distributed network of clients that are all connecting to a centralized Discord server. And your bot is just an automated one that happens to be running from Node rather than some user interface. So this maybe was something that I'll have to address later, but if you want your bot to be running without you having to just like run it manually from terminal, and then if you turn your computer off, it's stopped, you'll have to find a place to deploy it, and I can cover that in other videos and provide some resources here as well. And so I should also leave you with, like, if you want to explore this more, you should really look at the discord.js documentation. So I already prepared to walk through this tutorial, so I've kind of pulled the pieces out that I need to know. But if you want to look at what all the things that are possible, the names of the functions, the different things I'm using, this is really where you want to look. And I'll dig into this more in the next video. So let me know if you got your bot working. Share that with me. There's actually a place on the coding train. We'll include this as part of the passenger showcase. You can share a bot. And then things you want to try that you don't know how to try that you think would be fun for me to do in a video, leave those in the comments, or better yet, join the coding train Discord itself and let's chat about it. All right. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you get a bot running. I hope it's fun for you. And I'm sure you're going to be very creative with it. I don't know what I'm talking about. I got to go. I've been recording these videos. Do you notice I'm wearing the same clothes in like 5 videos straight? I've been doing this all day long. Time for me to do something else. Goodbye.